The death of the sovereign individual, how comfort, convenience, and the illusion of safety seduce us into voluntary servitude. In the design of divine creation, every human being is born sovereign, free in will, independent in spirit, and accountable only to the Creator. The breath of life breathed into man by God was not meant to be owned, leased, or governed by other men, save through just and sacred guidance rooted in divine truth. Sovereignty in its purest form means the ability to make choices, moral, economic, familial, spiritual, without coercion. Yet in the modern world, this intrinsic birthright is quietly being exchanged for chains disguised as luxuries. Through the seductive trifecta of comfort, convenience, and the illusion of safety, the modern system is engineering the mass surrender of individual autonomy, reducing once free souls into dependent, passive consumers, eager to trade responsibility for ease, freedom for security, and truth for simulated peace. It begins subtly. The promise of comfort, ease of living, automation, fast access to goods, entertainment on demand, appeals to something primal in us. Life is inherently difficult. Struggles with survival, weather, sustenance, and danger define the vast majority of human history. So when the modern age offered us thermostats, supermarkets, fast food, cars, and smartphones, it felt like evolution, not regression. But hidden in the wrapping paper of these comforts is a fine print agreement. Your dependence. You may no longer know how to grow your own food, fix your own tools, purify your water, or survive in nature. Bit by bit, the skills that once empowered the sovereign individual are atrophying, outsourced to companies, apps, and systems that promise to do it for you. And this is no accident. A people who can do for themselves are difficult to rule, but a people who need the system for everything, from waking them up, to feeding them, to validating their identity, are easily manipulated. Convenience, the next seduction, deepens this dependence. We are told that time is money, and so everything must be optimized. Amazon delivers in one day. Uber arrives in minutes. AI completes your tasks. Algorithms curate your content. But in making life frictionless, we also remove the resistance that builds strength. In our obsession with saving time, we begin to waste life. We are no longer craftsmen, thinkers, or wanderers. We are now scrollers, clickers, and reactors. The sovereign individual, who once deliberated before acting, is now replaced by the programmed consumer, whose desires are shaped by invisible hands, and whose choices are predetermined by algorithms. Each click, each tap, and each swipe trains us to value effortlessness. The less effort it takes, the more desirable it becomes. But when life requires no effort, it no longer requires you. This mass surrender is not enforced at gunpoint, it is voluntary. It is psychological, and at the root of it lies the third and perhaps most potent seduction, the illusion of safety. The state, the corporation, the platform all claim to exist for your protection. Protect your data, protect your health, protect your mind from misinformation, protect your children from harm. But this protection always comes at a cost: surveillance, censorship, dependency, and obedience. And yet most people submit because fear is the great motivator. The sovereign individual in his pure form is unafraid. He fears God alone. But the modern subject fears disease, cancellation, poverty, loneliness, and irrelevance. And so, to escape these fears, he willingly hands over power to technocrats, health ministries, AI platforms, and digital overseers. These new priests promise a version of salvation, not of the soul, but of the body, of comfort, of status. And in this exchange, the soul is quietly silenced. What's more, this surrender is masked as progress. It is not labeled slavery or tyranny. It is called innovation, inclusivity, public health, and global citizenship. The manipulation is linguistic as much as it is digital. When submitting to mass data collection is called personalization, when being tracked is called optimized experiences, and when censorship is called fact-checking. The masses cheer for their chains. The sovereign individual, once guided by inner truth and divine command, is now being taught that truth comes from screens, facts come from experts, and morality comes from trends. Sovereignty is now a conspiracy theory. Compliance is the new virtue. Consider the architecture of modern life. Our homes are smart, but our decisions are dumbed down. Our cities are efficient, but our communities are dying. Our devices connect us, but our hearts grow more isolated. And through it all, a silent expectation grows that you will not think for yourself, that you will not parent your child without expert advice, that you will not question the system without being labeled dangerous, that you will not say what you believe unless it has been pre-approved by the algorithm, and slowly, you forget what it means to be sovereign. You become a node in a network, a data point, a consumer. You are rewarded for obedience and punished for resistance. But sovereignty in its deepest sense is spiritual. It means recognizing that no authority can override God's authority. It means understanding that rights are not granted by governments but by the Creator. It means living with dignity, even if that dignity costs you comfort. It means accepting hardship over compromise. The true sovereign individual is not someone who lives off-grid or rejects all technology, but someone who refuses to outsource their moral compass. He takes responsibility for his mind, his body, his family, and his soul. He resists seduction, not with rage, but with clarity. He does not beg for permission to speak truth. He does not fear the loss of comfort if it means the preservation of his integrity. Yet, the modern system fears the sovereign individual. Why? Because he cannot be bought, baited, or controlled. He cannot be manipulated by fear or seduced by ease. He thinks before he complies. He questions before he conforms. He does not panic in crisis. He prepares. And most importantly, he remembers that life itself is a test, not a product to be optimized. The sovereign individual lives by principle, not by trend. He follows divine law, not man-made fashion. He sees through the illusion of safety and chooses the reality of accountability before God. But reclaiming this sovereignty is not easy. We are surrounded by mechanisms designed to distract, addict, and sedate. Entertainment, social validation, digital rewards, and economic dependence are all tools of pacification. We are fed ideologies that make us feel guilty for asserting independence, as though thinking for yourself is arrogance and trusting your instincts is anti-science. Even spirituality is being repackaged into passive, consumer-friendly formats. Mindfulness without submission, gratitude without struggle, healing without repentance. This is not spiritual sovereignty. It is spiritual sedation. The path back to sovereignty begins with awakening. Not a political awakening, but a spiritual one. A realization that the body was never meant to be your master and that comfort is not the purpose of life. That true peace comes not from surveillance or medication, but from aligning your life with truth. It means rejecting false authorities, whether ideological, digital, or institutional, and returning to the one who created you free. It means embracing difficulty as a path to strength. It means training your children to think critically, live simply, and walk with God, regardless of how the world mocks them. And perhaps that is the final trap. The modern world has made sovereignty look unattractive, hard, lonely, even dangerous. But this is the same tactic used against prophets and righteous people throughout history. They were called rebels, fools, heretics, conspiracy theorists. They were isolated, banned, punished, not because they were wrong, but because they were free, and their freedom exposed the servitude of the masses. In truth, sovereignty is a burden. It requires courage, clarity, and sacrifice, but it is also a trust from God, a sacred responsibility. And in a world that increasingly demands your silence, your compliance, and your worship of ease, to remain sovereign is perhaps the most revolutionary act of worship. So we must ask, how much are we willing to give up for the illusion of safety? At what point does comfort become a cage? And who do we truly serve when we trade our God-given rights for temporary relief? Because the only thing more dangerous than being ruled by others is forgetting that you were born free. And the only thing more tragic than tyranny is welcoming it with open arms, so long as it comes with free Wi-Fi, same-day delivery, and a false sense of peace.